the percentage of your paycheck you should save. It's not 20%. The real number depends on something most financial advice skips over entirely, and I had to learn that the hard way. I spent 3 years doing what I was told, downloaded the apps, tried the envelopes, moved money around when I remembered to, and every few months I'd check my progress and feel like I'd been running on a treadmill. Not because I was lazy, because the advice wasn't built for my actual life. Save 20%. Simple rule. Except it ignores where you're starting, what debt you're carrying, and how much time you actually have. It's like telling someone to exercise an hour a day without asking if they're training for a marathon or recovering from surgery. The question itself is broken. Asking for a universal percentage is asking the wrong thing. So before I show you how to find your number, you need to see something uncomfortable. Americans save an average of 4.6% of their income. The recommended baseline is 20%. I don't need to tell you that gap is enormous. You can feel it. 50% of Americans couldn't cover a $1,000 emergency without borrowing, a car repair, a medical bill, a busted water heater. That's the world 4.6% creates. Run the actual math on someone earning $50,000. At 4.6%, they're saving about $2,300 a year, over 30 years with decent market returns, maybe $200,000 total. That sounds okay until you remember it's supposed to fund decades of not working. Same person, same 30 years, 20% instead, nearly $900,000. Compound interest doesn't add the difference. It multiplies it. That's the gap between retiring when you choose and working until your body decides for you. And the people headed for the wrong end of that aren't stupid or careless. They're following a system that makes saving feel optional and spending feel mandatory. The 4.6% isn't personal failure, it's structural. But diagnosing the system doesn't fix your account. So what actually works? The 50-30-20 rule comes closest to a universal answer. Half your income covers needs, rent, utilities, groceries, insurance, getting to work, the expenses that would keep you awake if you lost your job tomorrow. 30% funds wants, restaurants, streaming, that hobby that keeps you sane. Wants aren't the enemy. They prevent burnout. But they're also where budgets tend to come apart. The 20% is where future you gets built. Emergency fund first, retirement next, then everything else. This beats tracking every expense because it's actually followable. No spreadsheet required. But I should be straight with you. This rule has a flaw. The 50-30-20 rule assumes you'll stick to it. It assumes willpower is a reliable fuel source. And for most people, that assumption breaks everything. If knowing what to do were enough, we'd all be wealthy. You already know you should save more. You've known for years. Your brain is wired to prioritize what's right in front of you. $100 now feels more valuable than $150 next year, even when the math says otherwise. Researchers call it present bias. Our ancestors survived by eating the berries immediately because something might eat them first. That instinct kept humanity alive for a very long time. Amazon's one-click checkout is not a predator, but your brain hasn't caught up, which is why saving whatever's left over at the end of the month never works. Nothing is ever left over. Your brain finds ways to spend whatever it can see. More willpower isn't the fix. Willpower depletes like a battery as the day goes on. By the time you're exhausted and scrolling at night, it's gone. You need systems that bypass willpower entirely. 4 words that summarize the most important concept in personal finance. Pay yourself first. The way most people handle a paycheck, money arrives, bills drain it, spending happens, savings get whatever survives, and nothing survives because your brain expands spending to match whatever's available. Flip the order. Money arrives, savings disappear first, you live on what remains. When the money vanishes before you can touch it, there's no decision to make, no temptation to resist. Direct deposit splitting is how you make this mechanical. Ask HR to route a percentage straight to savings before it ever hits checking. You never see it. You never think about it. And your brain adapts to the smaller number surprisingly fast. You spend what you have available. Everyone does. So stop having it available. Treat savings like a bill that gets paid first, because future you is the creditor depending on today's decision. Saving more means finding where money currently disappears and I promise you it's leaking into corners you've forgotten about. The average American maintains 12 or more active subscriptions. Most people guess half that. Streaming services, gym memberships, apps you downloaded once, that magazine from 3 years ago still billing your card. Unused subscriptions drain roughly $240 monthly from the average person. Nearly $3,000 a year funding services you forgot signing up for. Pull 3 months of bank statements. Look at every recurring charge and ask one question. Did I use this in the last 30 days? If no, cancel it. You can always resubscribe if you genuinely miss it. When I did this myself, the stuff I found was almost funny. A subscription box I'd completely forgotten I'd authorized, still arriving at my door, 3 streaming services I hadn't opened in months, $260 a month providing zero value. Subscriptions survive like vampires. They only work when you invite them in. They drain you while you sleep. At least Dracula made an impression. Cancel first, evaluate later, cut everything questionable. If something genuinely leaves a hole after 2 weeks, add it back. Most won't. And while you're in there, unsubscribe from promotional emails. Every one of those is an impulse purchase waiting for the right weak moment. Subscriptions are the obvious drain, but there's a sneakier category that does more damage because each individual purchase feels meaningless. A $5 coffee every workday. Sounds like nothing. That's $1,300 a year, and over 10 years. Not counting what that money could have grown into. $13,000 sitting in that one daily habit. I'm not saying never buy coffee. I'm saying understand what patterns actually cost across time. Lunch is worse and it sneaks up differently. The gap between takeout and packing lunch is about $9 a day. Doesn't register as a financial decision. But 5 days a week across a year, that $9 gap turns into over $2,000 on lunch alone. Add coffee and lunch together, about $17 a day in spending that doesn't feel like spending. Over $6,000 a year, your brain barely registers. The solution isn't to deprive yourself. It's awareness. Track every small purchase for 7 days. Write them down. When the real number stares back at you, decisions start making themselves. Willpower is a phone battery, full at sunrise, dead by mid-afternoon. Definitely not surviving a Target run after 8 hours of work. Most impulse purchases happen at night for exactly this reason. Automation takes decisions out of the process entirely. Here's how to set it up. Open a high-yield savings account at an online bank. These pay significantly more interest than traditional banks. They carry FDIC insurance. And the key is keeping it separate from checking. Out of sight, out of mind. Schedule automatic transfers for the day after payday. Start with whatever amount doesn't cause anxiety. $50, $100. Consistency matters more than the number. Then genuinely forget it exists. Don't check obsessively. Let it compound in the background while you live. When I finally set up automatic transfers, something clicked that I hadn't expected. After about 6 weeks, I forgot the money existed. I'd been fighting myself for years, manufacturing willpower, white-knuckling my way through every financial decision. And it turned out the answer was just to take myself out of the loop. The system didn't need discipline, it needed plumbing. People who automate save roughly 3 times more than people who transfer manually, not because they're more disciplined, because they remove discipline from the equation. Traditional budgeting fails because it operates like punishment, constant denial, no to restaurants, no to purchases, no to whatever you actually want. That's not sustainable. Brains rebel against perpetual deprivation. What if saving felt less like sacrifice? Instead of avoiding spending, you're hitting goals. The dopamine comes from winning instead of buying. The 52-week challenge is the simplest entry point. Week 1, save $1. Week 2, $2. By week 52, you're putting away $52 that week. Year-end total, $1,378. The starting amounts are so small, your brain doesn't bother resisting. And by the time amounts increase, momentum carries you. The 100 envelope method is more aggressive. Number envelopes 1 through 100, pull one randomly each day. Save that amount. That yields $5,050. Whatever method you pick, visible progress matters. Charts, apps, a jar you watch filling up. Your brain needs to see wins accumulating. Appreciate you sticking around. If you liked what you heard, smash that like button, hit subscribe, and drop a comment. I'd love to hear your take. And if you know someone who'd enjoy this, share it with them. Cashback credit cards return 1 to 5% on purchases you'd make anyway. Groceries, gas, dining. Spending $1,000 a month on those categories without cashback means leaving over $100 a year on the table for no reason. But the bigger miss is employer 401k matching. If your company offers matching and you're not taking full advantage, you're declining free money. Not metaphorically. A company matching 50% up to 6% of your salary means every dollar you don't contribute, past 3%, is money your employer wanted to hand you and you said, no thanks. 50% matching is a 50% instant return. That doesn't exist anywhere else in investing. Caveats: never carry a credit card balance. Interest erases cash back and then some. Pay in full monthly. Avoid applying for multiple cards at once. Credit scores take temporary hits. And set up account alerts and spending limits through your bank. Small friction points protect you from yourself. This is where timing matters more than amount. $200 a month starting at 25, 7% average annual return. By 55, around $227,000. Wait until 35 to start. Same monthly amount, same returns. And by 55, you have roughly $104,000. 10 years of delay cuts the result by more than half. Your first decade of saving contributes disproportionately to your final number in ways that catch most people off guard. Remember 4.6% from earlier? Someone earning $50,000 at that rate for 30 years ends up with maybe $200,000. Same person at 20% approaches $900,000. That gap doesn't reflect 4 times more effort. Compound effects multiply the difference year after year. The best time to start was a decade ago. The second best time is your next payday. Every month you wait makes the math harder. Not impossible, but harder. 20% works as a baseline. Hit that and you're outpacing the vast majority of Americans. But it's a starting block, not a finish line. If you're starting after 30, add 5% to your target. Lost compound time requires higher contributions to compensate. Carrying high-interest debt, the interest you're paying likely exceeds what you'd earn investing. So eliminate the debt first, then redirect those payments to savings. If you have a goal with a timeline, house in 5 years, say, calculate the down payment, divide by 60 months. That's your additional monthly target beyond the baseline. Emergency reserves come first, always. 3 to 6 months of expenses before you do any aggressive investing. That's your protection against life forcing you into debt. And use separate accounts for separate goals. Emergency fund, housing fund, travel fund. Mental separation maintains motivation and keeps you from rating one goal to fund another. Your number depends on where you're starting and where you're headed. Whatever it calculates to, I'm fairly confident it's higher than your current rate. Everything I've talked about is useless if it stays in your head. So here's what I'd actually do if I were starting from scratch this week. First thing, pull 3 months of bank statements and just look at the recurring charges. Don't judge anything yet, just see it. Then cancel at least 3 subscriptions you haven't touched in 30 days. That takes 15 minutes and could save you hundreds a year. Then get the automation running. Either call HR about splitting your direct deposit or set up an automatic transfer from checking to savings in your bank app. Schedule it for the day after your typical payday. Pick a number that doesn't scare you. Even $50 creates the habit. If you don't have a high-yield savings account, open one first. 10 minutes online. Check for FDIC insurance, compare rates, done. Pick one savings challenge to start alongside the automation, like the 52-week challenge, envelopes, whatever appeals to you. Just one. And then sit down for 10 minutes and calculate your personal target percentage using what we talked about earlier. By this time next week, you could have automated systems running, or you could be exactly where you are right now. There's a difference between someone who's trying to save and someone who saves. The person trying fights constantly. Every purchase is a battle. Every temptation tests their resolve. The person who saves doesn't fight because the saving is automatic, built into the infrastructure of their life. They focus on living while the systems handle the rest. You're not bad with money. You're not financially broken. You just haven't built the systems yet. I didn't become good at saving through discipline. I became someone whose money moves automatically. Same person, different plumbing. Start this week with whatever percentage feels manageable, even if it seems embarrassingly small. Automate it so you don't have to think. Increase it slightly every few months, and then watch what happens when consistent action meets compound math across years. Numbers don't care about excuses or circumstances or how overwhelmed you feel. They just calculate. And for the first time, those calculations can work for you instead of against you.